Today I'm going to show you how to make these crepes. This is a spinach-based crepe, Florentine crepe, with chickenless shreds, spinach and leek. And it's served with a cashew, leek, white wine and garlic sauce. So, let's get started. So for the crepe batter, we've got a few ingredients. I have some spinach here which I blanched earlier, just some baby spinach. Now literally, just drop the spinach into boiling water, for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, till it wilts. Take it out, refresh under cold water, all right? About 80 grams there. I'll drop that in here. I've also got some soya milk. There's about 320 mils of soya milk here. Now you can use other plant milks, but I find soya milk, a neutral UHT soya milk, is actually the best for these type of recipes because some other milks have different properties. A little bit of salt. Nutritional yeast flakes. Dijon mustard. I have a little bit of cornflour here. And I have some cream flour. Just make sure I get that all in. This is just regular cream flour, just sifted. I'm going to tip that in as well. Now the reason I'm using corn flour and I'm using regular flour is there's no eggs in these crepes. So what the corn flour is doing, the corn flour is not necessarily replicating the eggs, but it is lending a slightly different starch property to the mix. It means it gives us a little bit of springiness in the crepe. So the crepes will hold together a little bit better, a little bit more stretch in them, which is something that the egg would help to do as well. So I'm going to clip this on, give this a blend. Oh, I forgot one ingredient. An important ingredient as well is oil, okay? Just a neutral oil. Sunflower rapeseed oil will be perfect. Give this a blend. Now, we have a nice smooth batter here. That's important. You want to keep that lovely green colour as well. That's why we use the spinach. So I'm going to tip that into this jug. Now we're looking to have about 600 mils of batter altogether. Now we look to have about a little bit shy of 600 here. This does happen sometimes. So I'm just going to top that up with a tiny bit of water, which I have beside me here, because you're working on the premise of having about 100 mils of batter per crepe. And this recipe should make around 6 crepes. 4 to 6. Usually the first crepe goes to crap, so that's why we're doing it. We have a little bit extra. So drop of water in there. And now let's see, are we at the 600 mark? Yeah, I think we're at 600 mils there. Oh, just shy of it. And 600 mils. Here we are. We may even have to add a little bit more water to that when we make the crepes later. But that should suffice for now. That's our crepe batter. So I'm going to set this aside for about, it should really sit for about half an hour or so before we use it. It just gives it a bit of time to mingle and to rest, and then we can cook off with it. Okay, so while our crepe batter is resting, we're now going to make the topping sauce and the filling for our crepes. So we're using leeks, okay? Now I've got the leeks cut into 2 parts, like 2 different vegetables almost. We've got the greens and we've got the whites, okay? We're going to use them both differently. So actually I'm going to take a little bit more of the green off to join this here. This is going to be our topping sauce. We're going to use the greens for our topping sauce and the whites for our filling. So for our topping sauce, a little bit of oil, about 30 mils of oil, medium heat, and we're going to chop our leeks and add them to the oil. There we go. Our leeks are going in. You hear it shimmering now. There we are. Just roughly chop the leeks now. We're going to use these, we're going to blend the sauce. Just there's lots of flavour in leeks. And so many people, when they use leeks, throw the green part out. The green part's lovely. It's such a nice part of the vegetable. And it really is a tale of 2 cities, leek. You know, there's 2 parts to it, completely. And it's such a waste. You see these bits going in the bin. But they're great for stocks as well. They're a bit tough, so they're better if they're blended or pureed. Another thing you can do with these as well, you can make a lovely pate out of them as well. So I used to do like a leek, butter bean and roast garlic pate. Really, really simple. You just sweat down your leeks till they're nice and collapsed with a drop of white wine. Add your butter beans. A little bit of roast garlic in there is quite nice as well. And then you can puree it into a nice smooth pate. That's our leeks. I'm going to give them a bit of a stir. This dish here, well, I had the leeks, and usually when I'm cooking with leeks, I like to kind of divide the leeks up. I like to do it this way. I like the same with scallions. I like to use the two vegetables different in a dish. Well, the two different parts of the vegetable different. I think they've got slightly contrasting flavour, not contrasting flavours, but the flavours complement each other well. They're slightly different. The whites of the leeks are a lot milder. The greens are got a slightly stronger, more chlorophyllic taste. But I think they work really well together in a dish, and just even the contrast, the colours. So I have here now just some white wine. About 100 ml of white wine going into the leeks there. A little garlic. Not too much, just about a teaspoon there. And the other thing I like about this dish as well, I love spinach. Spinach is one of my favourite ingredients, I have to say. It's really nice. And I've used spinach in two different ways in this dish as well. We've used part of it in the batter as a puree, and the other part we've chopped up. So we're going to have the two different textures of spinach and the two different textures of leek. So we have our leeks, we have our garlic, a little bit of white wine. I'm just going to add a little bit of stock to that now, just a regular stock. Again, now you can make your own stock or use a shop bought. I was lazy today, we're going for the old shop bought version. It's totally fine. There's a lot of stuff going on here, so this will work lovely. So just our stock and our white wine. Give it a bit of a stir. And now I'm going to add some cashew nuts here. I've got 100 grams of cashew nuts. Now these are unsoaked cashews. If I pre-soak the cashew nuts, which I do sometimes, you can make the cooking time a bit faster. The unsoaked cashews take a bit longer, like 15, 20 minutes or so to cook out. You can do it either way, but you'd have to adjust the recipe if you're using soaked cashews by using a little bit less stock. And that's our sauce. So I'm just going to let that simmer away, nice and simple. Let that simmer away on a medium heat for about 15 minutes or thereabouts. Knock the heat off. We'll let the cashews continue to soften in the stock. And while that's all happening, we're going to move on to our filling. So for our filling, we're going to start the same. Little oil. And we hear the sizzle. Induction's great, it heats up very quickly. Yeah, we hear the sizzle already. And drop our leeks in. And there we are, that's our leeks in. This is going to be the filling now. So to that now we're going to add a couple of bay leaves. Not many, just 2 bay leaves. And a little white wine. We're going to give that a stir. I'm also going to add a drop of water to that as well. And this just gives the leeks room to cook as well. So I'm going to pop a lid on that. And we're going to let that cook away for about 5-6 minutes. And then we're going to add our pesto, etc. to it. So I've cut the leeks now in a couple of different ways here, you may have noticed. I've cut the leeks for the sauce, the green part of the leek, I've cut that quite chunky. Because it doesn't really matter because we're going to blend it or it's going to be pureed. So I'm just going to let that cook away like so. Usually the greens of the leek I'll usually use for a puree or else for a pate. I don't really use them as much as a standalone vegetable because they'll be quite fibrous. The whites of the leek here on the other hand, I've shredded a little bit finer, but not totally fine because they're the kind of vegetable that fall apart. If I cut them too fine, they'll disappear on me. So I've left them with a little bit of give. So I've kind of cut them into rings, a little bit of give on them. I'll let them cook down. They'll sweat away here in the combination of oil, wine and water. And they'll just break down a little bit, but they'll still have a little bit of texture. The leeks now have been cooking, the white of the leeks have been cooking now for about 7 minutes. So they should be more or less ready. You can almost tell by the way they sound. Yeah, they're good to go. So I'm going to knock the heat off here. You can see now they're nice and soft. The leeks have collapsed down. A little bit of water in there, a little bit of white wine, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of bay. So the leeks are nice and soft. That's kind of what we're looking for there. So just one more final ingredient to add to the leeks. We have some basil pesto here. I'm just using a shop bought version here. Now, if you wanted, you can make your own pesto. It's easy enough to make pesto. Fresh herbs, nuts, nutritional yeast, bit of lemon juice, bit of garlic, mill it all together. Or you can just be lazy and just buy the shop bought version, which is completely fine. This one here is like it's just a supermarket one. But a vegan pesto now, just bear in mind, because a lot of pesto, well most pestos actually contain parmesan. So this is a vegan one here, and the ingredients are all fine. There's about 8 ingredients, I think, in the list altogether, so it's all good. There's nothing strange in there. So I'm going to top that in. Add a little pinch of salt. Now again, don't want to go too heavy to salt, because we're going to have a lot of flavour going on here. It's just a pinch of salt. Give the leeks a stir. And that's our filling. The only thing we're going to add to that now, before we put it into the crepes, we have some chopped spinach, and we also have some shredded chicken, some of the seitan chicken. But we'll come to that in a bit. So I'm going to take that off the heat and pop that aside. So we have our filling leeks ready. These are the whited leeks, which we've cooked down with some white wine. They've collapsed here. We've added in some pesto. Now the only thing this is waiting for now is our spinach and our chicken shreds. So I'm going to pop that aside. Our topping sauce, which we boiled away for about 15 minutes there, 20 minutes to soften the cashews, is ready too. Now what I want to do with the topping sauce is I want to just pour the topping sauce into the blender and set it aside. We're just going to blend this at the last minute before we serve. The reason being is because we're going to add some frozen peas to that, and the frozen peas are going to lend a little bit of green colour to it. If I put these in now, they're not going to be green peas anymore, they're going to be grey peas, okay? So I'm just going to just pop this into the blender. Now again, the white wine and the garlic which you've cooked this in, it's best to cook that over kind of a medium heat. You don't want to boil it too much. Well, you want to boil it, but you don't want to overcook it, because you'll get that lovely smell of wine and garlic in the air. And a lot of that smell of wine and garlic is actually your wine and garlic going away. You want to try and retain as much of that flavour as possible. It is a balancing act. So you're looking to get a kind of you're looking for a medium boil as opposed to a ferocious boil. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this here. I'm going to leave the lid on as well. This is going to keep it nice and warm for us. And just before we serve, we're going to blend in our chilled or our thawed frozen peas and our mustard. So pop these aside, and now we're going to move on to our crepes. So we have our filling ready, just waiting for the chicken shreds, chickenless shreds, and the spinach. We have our topping sauce ready, just waiting on the peas and the mustard. So we're just going to make our crepes now, okay? So these are Florentine crepes. So Florentine generally in kind of French culinary terms means with spinach. These are spinach-based crepe. So I've actually just blended spinach into the batter, and we're going to put a little bit of spinach through the crepe as well. So we've got spinach in two ways. Now the batter's quite thick now, as you can see. We've let it rest there for about half an hour to 40 minutes, so it's thickened up considerably. So we've got about 600 mils of batter there altogether, but I can see it's quite thick. So we may need to add a little bit of water as we go through it. But I say a little bit, I mean like literally a teaspoon or a tablespoon. If we add too much water, we could ruin the batter. So we have to be very, very careful with that. So I'm going to put a bit of flame under this now, and we'll see how we get on. So I'm going to come to about 160 degrees on this, okay? I'm going to brush a little oil onto the pan. Now, this recipe comfortably serves 4. Now I've made an allowance for 6 crepes here. The reason being is because usually the first crepe, as we all know, tends to be rubbish. And that's the one that you want to pick at and eat as you make the other crepes. So that's the premise we're working on today. So we've given ourselves scope to have 2 terrible crepes and 4 hopefully good crepes. So we'll see how we get on. So we have to make sure now we have the right temperature here in the oil before we even attempt to add the batter. The oil has to be very hot when the batter hits it. Otherwise it's not going to work properly. So I'm going to just swirl the oil around slightly here. Higher it up a little bit, just for a moment. Yeah, there we are, I think. Yeah, perfect. Now you can see the edges are starting to crisp up a little bit here around the edges. The top is starting to gelatinize, it's starting to set. I know when I put my finger onto it even, that it's not wet anymore. So I know that that's starting to cook through. It's effectively cooked, this is a matter of flipping it now. So we can see the edges here. This is where the crepe gets its name from, as I was saying. This is the crispy edges, as the edges start to pull away from the side. I think the word is crespel. I'm not 100% sure, I read about it years ago. But I think it's crespel, I think is the word. And it's literally where the word crepe comes from. You can see that kind of lattice edge, the small lattice edge there, that's the edge there, that where the name crepe came from, as it's pulling away from the sides. So we have our crepes. We've got 6 crepes here. One which is all right, it's a bit hit and miss. We've got 5 good ones. And we have our filling here. The filling now, we're just waiting on our spinach and our chickenless shreds. And we've also got our topping sauce here. Topping sauce now, just waiting on our cooked peas and our Dijon mustard. And we're going to cream that up then, just before we serve. That's still nice and warm, by the way, so we can serve it straight away. Now if you wanted to make it a bit warmer, you could always just put it back on the stove. Same with the filling. The filling can be warmed up again as well. And if you're making these in advance, you can pop the crepes in a warm oven. Just leave them sitting in a warm oven while you heat these up. Okay, so we have all our elements ready. We have the crepes ready here. We have our filling ready here. We're just going to add some spinach and some chicken to that. We have our sauce just about ready. We're going to add some peas and some Dijon mustard. These can both be heated after these components have been added to it if you like. You can warm them up on the stove. You can keep the crepes warm in the oven. But I'm just going to assemble it here today so you can see how it looks when it goes together. Okay? So for our sauce, the first thing we're going to do, clip this off. Now remember, we have our cashew nuts in here. We have our green leeks. We have our white wine. We have here some frozen peas which we've thawed. Okay? I just took them out of the freezer yesterday, left them in a bowl. Now what the frozen peas are doing, they're just going to add a little bit of colour just to give the impression of the colour of the leek, because the leek should be, the colour of the leek, the green of the leek is not really going to shine through. It would be more kind of a grey than a green. So what the green peas do is just to give the illusion slightly of a kind of a leek-like colour. That's the only purpose they're there for. They're not there for flavour, because we've already got the flavour going from the cashew nuts, the white wine and the garlic in there. Now they will lend a little bit now, bear in mind, because peas do have a distinctive flavour, but more of a back note. They lend a richness, and they're also they're a good source of protein as well. So we'll pop this on, and give this a blend. For a moment, get it nice and smooth. It's like an airplane, that blender. But you can see, look, you see the colour? It's got a slight green tint to it. That's what we're looking for, okay? If I didn't put the peas in there, it would look a bit more grey. Like, it's still totally fine, but to be honest, this gives a little bit more of a richness to it. A bit more vibrancy, should we say, okay? So moving now on to the filling, I have the leek whites, which I've cooked down with white wine, garlic and bay, all right? Now again, you can warm this up if you need, before you serve it. But just for the purpose of demonstration here today, we're going to be serving it cold. I have these chicken shreds here. This is vegan chicken shred, chickenless shreds. When we made this, it's made from seitan. Now you can use this, or if you want, you can actually just go and buy some a meat alternative from the supermarket, a chicken alternative, or what's really nice as well is some tofu. Just get some tofu and just shred it up as well. That will also work the same. So I'm going to add our chickenless shreds to our leeks, give it a bit of a stir. Now we've already seasoned this, and then to that as well, I'm actually going to add some chopped spinach as well. Just a little bit of chopped spinach. So I blanched 200 grams of spinach earlier on. 80 grams of that went into the batter, and other 120 grams we have here. I'm going to drop that in there. Give it a stir. So that's our filling for our Florentine. We have leek, spinach and chicken. Well, less chicken. And that's going to go in the centre, okay? That's our mixture. So we're going to take a crepe. Now you can serve this any way you like, but personally I like to serve it with the crepe to one side and the sauce to the other. Now it's actually quite nice as well to serve the sauce on top, but I just personally like it this way. I like the sauce separate, and then you can dig in, as you go. So I take my crepe, and then I'm going to take some of the filling. Just going to pop the filling out. Actually, I'll use a spoon to help me here. I want to get a little bit of everything, a little bit of chicken, a little bit of leek. So we've got a nice mixture of flavours and textures there. I'm going to fold this part of the crepe in. And then with our sauce, we have that lovely, well, not lovely, but we have a slight green colour here. So this is reminiscent of the colour of leeks, and that's what we're looking for. We want it kind of to look the same colour as a leek. Now, as I said to you, if we didn't put the peas in, it would be a bit greyer. So peas, give it that. So I'm just going to spoon this onto the plate, like so. There we are. And now just one final touch. Got some pumpkin seeds here. Just going to sprinkle put some pumpkin seeds over. And then just one final piece. I just like a little bit of fresh parsley on top. Just a bit of green. Just to give it that lift. And there we are. That's our Florentine crepe with leeks, less chicken, spinach and a leek sauce.